And then they get these jobs in the federal government where they are continuing to do the work of the people, and at the swipe of a pen, they lose their jobs, they lose their benefits. And it doesn't stop with just federal workers, y'all. I went to the dentist, my dentist is in Atlantic Station. I showed up and I was talking with Dr. Patel, and Dr. Patel, who is not a federal employee, asked me, when was this going to stop? Because his books are clearing out, y'all, because people don't know if they're going to have health benefits to even show up to get their dental treatments, their dental plans that they already have in the books. So tonight is a conversation in the community to break down exactly what is happening. We have some experts here with us, so we will get to them in just a second. But I just want you to know that we had a telephone town hall 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. Everything feels like it was last week at this point. But we had over 13,000 constituents on a telephone town hall because people are concerned. People are concerned about their neighbors, they're concerned about their community, they're concerned about our country, and where do we go from here? And we know that in this district, we like to lead the way. There are some members of Congress who are afraid to meet with their constituents. Some members of Congress who have been told by their leadership, don't host in-person town halls, because they don't want to show up and face the people. But I will always stand in community with the people who vote in this district, with the people who sent me to Washington, even those people who did not vote for me. I'm your Congresswoman too, and I stand proudly to represent you and stand up for everything that you deserve in this country. I had someone reach out to the office and they wanted to know, well, what am I going to do about the situation with Donald Trump? This person told me that they voted for Donald Trump, and that's okay, y'all, because I fight for everybody to have the freedom of fair access to the ballot, regardless of who they're voting for. But this particular person voted for Donald Trump. He said, but I voted for Donald Trump to get rid of the illegals, not to get rid of my good federal job. But you see, when we do budget cuts across the board, this is exactly what happens. You don't get to pick and choose what parts of a bad Project 2025 agenda you want to institute. So we now are seeing the consequences of what happened. Tonight, you probably are thinking about a big showdown that we had last week in DC. And in that showdown in DC, it was a continuing resolution. I think we have some handouts just breaking down a lot of the different phrases and words that you're hearing. Do we? Yes?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay. So the continuing resolution is basically just to fund what we should have been funded before October 1st, because that is our fiscal year budget. Then you heard about a budget framework that passed a couple of weeks ago in DC that is completely different from the continuing resolution. And that was to set up what the framework will be like for the next budget cycle that starts October 1st of this year. And then you might have also heard some conversation around Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and what that means. Well, let me tell you a little bit about that. You're going to hear, or might have already heard from a lot of people who said, nowhere in this budget framework does it mention the word Medicaid. And that's true. That is absolutely true. But when you tell certain committees like Energy and Commerce that they have to cut $330 billion from their budget, there is absolutely no way to do that without impacting Medicaid. So that is the conversation that we're going to have tonight. We're going to talk about the real impacts. We're going to answer your questions, and we're going to hear from experts who are living this every day and can give you the breakdown from someone who does not use your vote. I'm always going to shoot it to you straight, even though I can use your vote. But you're going to hear from the experts on this, because y'all, I represent more than a line item in a budget. I represent real people, real lives, and a lot of people's livelihoods are literally on the chopping block right now. So with that, I'm going to turn it over for our first special guest to introduce themselves. I want to keep us moving so that we can get to as many of your questions as possible. We have Eric Siegel, an Asheville Chair Professor of Law at Georgia State University College of Law. Eric is going to walk us through the constitutionality of the Trump administration's actions, or lack thereof. And we're going to go through the litigation happening right now with some of these executive actions and what the process looks like as we continue. So I wanted to have a constitutional law expert on hand with us tonight because that's one of the big questions that I get over and over and over. Can you really do this? Is what's happening with the federal government actually against the Constitution? Are we in a constitutional crisis? And where does that lead us? I have someone ask me, well, what happens if he just Donald Trump, if there's an affirmative court action and he doesn't obey the court? What happens then? And some people will say that will never happen. But Eric, I was born and raised in the South. My great aunt literally integrated the University of Alabama and showed up on campus in 1956 in Tuscaloosa because the court said that she could attend school. But she didn't have a federal government standing behind her to make sure that her rights were implemented in practice. So it's a different thing in practice and theory, so we're going to let you break it down for us. And then after we hear from Eric, we're going to hear from Laura.
Who have to do incredibly courageous things. Now, we've been through this rodeo before. In the 1960s and 70s, it was lower federal court judges who desegregated the South, not the Supreme Court. And they did it with their families and private lives being threatened. We got to tell these judges we have their backs, that we will support them, that even though we know you're not going to lose your job because of something you may do, your personal safety may be at stake. We need to make very public statements about security for them, and we need to make sure they know the public is behind them so they can do the all-important work of first saying this is illegal and it has to stop. It has to stop. And we all agree the federal government is too big, and we all agree there's ways. And going without trying to find it is a worthy task for people acting in good faith to improve our lives. That's not what's happening. The federal government has been broken by people who want to leave it tattered, useless, and dangerous. So we can talk more about specific cases during the Q&A if you want. But for now, I'm making a plea that really has not been made in America before, except for maybe in the 1970s. Support the brave judges for trying to stop this administration from creating a new and dangerous America. Because that's what they're trying to do. And we need to fight it with everything.
Thank you, Eric. Laura? So, Laura, before you start, I think it's important for people to understand that in the state of Georgia, people receive Medicaid through the state, and you might not be thinking that you know someone who receives Medicaid, but it's called different things in different places. So just right here in the 5th District, over 79,000 children receive Medicaid through Peach Care. That is Medicaid in the state of Georgia, and those are just the children. That doesn't include seniors, that doesn't include people on disabilities, that doesn't include pregnant women, just children. Over 79,000 children. Laura?
Absolutely. You've taken some of my talking points, in fact. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's so important for folks to be involved in their government and in their society. So I just really appreciate you all's time to be here and to ask your questions and to stay informed and active as participants in this democracy that we live in together. And as someone who lives in the 5th District with all of you, I'm very pleased to be here tonight. I'm Laura Colbert. I'm with Georgians for a Healthy Future, and we're an independent, nonpartisan consumer health advocacy organization. So our job is really to help to shape and change policies in our state and in the federal government so that all of you, all of us in the state of Georgia, have the opportunity to be healthy and to thrive. We spend a lot of our time thinking and advocating around Medicaid and other forms of health insurance. So that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. As Congresswoman Williams said, almost half of our kids in Georgia are covered by Medicaid. So we all know somebody who's covered by Medicaid. One of my good friends, Tyler, he has 2 little girls. They both have been covered by Medicaid their whole lives. Half of our births in the state of Georgia are covered by Medicaid. 3/4 of our nursing home residents are paid for through Medicaid. So if you know someone in a nursing home, there's a very good chance that part of their stay, or all of it, is being covered by Medicaid. And so really Medicaid is a family program. It's a very popular health insurance program that covers folks from birth all the way to the end of their lives, and at different points in between, depending on how they get their coverage and what they do throughout their lives. It is the foundation of our health care system here in Georgia, and as Congresswoman Williams mentioned, the budget framework for this upcoming federal budget cycle that has been put forward really puts that program at risk. It proposes $880 billion in Medicaid cuts, and so far that has been framed as they are going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse from the program. Let me be the first to tell you that Medicaid is an incredibly cost-efficient program. There is no way to cut $880 billion of waste, fraud, and abuse from Medicaid without hurting the children, pregnant women, seniors, and people with disabilities that are covered by that program today. And so it's really putting their access to care at risk. This is a kid and families program. It is putting our kids and families at risk if those cuts are implemented for Medicaid. So I'm here to talk with all of you about how Medicaid shapes our lives, how we can protect it going forward, and to answer any other questions about your health care that I can answer today. And I'll also just put in a really quick plug. In addition, on that budget framework that was passed, there are also cuts proposed to food assistance, also called SNAP, around $330 billion, if I'm getting my numbers correct. And that would impact about 300,000 families in our district, many of the same families who are covered by Medicaid today.
We're back.
There we go.
Thank you, Eric and Laura, for bringing your expertise to this conversation, and they're going to be with us as we open the floor for questions. I think maybe some cards were passed around, maybe not. Okay, we have a mic to pass around, so we now want to open up the floor for questions, because tonight was about hearing from you. Tonight was about bringing your conversation into the work that I'm doing in Congress, because y'all, with everything that is going on, we all have to be in this together. We have to fight in the courts, and we're doing that. There are hundreds of lawsuits right now in the courts to push back about what has been happening in this administration, and we're winning a lot of them. So the courts is one option. We also have to fight in Congress, and in Congress, that's where I come in. So I've been reading letters, making sure that we are standing up for our workforce, making sure that we are standing up for our benefits, and standing up for the American people and our Constitution. Leading letters, leading legislation, and the night of the joint address, y'all, I sat there. I knew that some people have been calling the office and they wanted to know, why did I even show up? Well, let me explain to you why I showed up that night and sat in the chamber. If I didn't show up, my seat would have been filled, and someone else would have sat there, and it wouldn't have made any difference in the world. So I knew that I needed to show up so that they can just and I wasn't going to allow that, because you sent me to DC to be your voice. But I also knew that there was only so much that I was going to be able to take. And at some point, it kind of already crossed it when I walked in the room, but we're going to cross my red line, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to stay there in the chamber any longer. And so I sat there and I waited, and I kept hearing lie after lie after lie from the rostrum, where the President of the United States was speaking to the entire country from a joint address of Congress. And so I got up and walked out, because at some point, you have to stop pretending that any of this is normal. So I walked out of the chamber. I walked out of the chamber and I went and met with my who is also a care provider. Because when we think about Medicaid, a lot of people don't think about those decisions that we have to make when we're trying to decide about around aging in our homes and having home health care. And so I had a guest with me who was filling it at every end of the spectrum, with a child with disabilities, and her being a care worker, and having an adult sibling that she takes care of. So she was there so that we could tell her story and elevate the face of these cuts, and elevate that this is not just a line item in the budget. Again, these are real people and real lives. So I walked out of the chamber that night and went and had conversations with the media and the influence about her story and what we should be talking about and what we needed to hear from a leader of this country. So, and then the third part around fighting back, we have the courts, we have Congress, and then y'all we have community. And that's where y'all come in. There are a lot of rallies going on, there are a lot of conversations happening, and you are here in this room tonight because you care about your community. You care about your country. And so we have three ways that we have to continue to work and fight back, and that is in the courts, in Congress, and in the community. And I need you to keep showing up. I need you to keep calling my office because I don't need to just hear from the people who want what is happening to go down. I need to hear from the people who are opposed to it as well. Because I get reports back from who's calling the office and what this means, and then I get the stories. I get the stories that matter to you and your families, and I bring those stories with me to committee hearings. I bring those stories with me to press conferences. I bring those stories with me to the floor of the United States Congress as I continue to elevate what is happening in our country. Because it is easy to ignore just a number, but it is hard to ignore a real person with a real story that those numbers impact. So I need to keep hearing from you. So tonight, as we open up the floor for questions, I welcome your stories. And we also have staff on hand who is here to do constituent services work, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to serve y'all. And I want you to know that raise your hand if you work on my team. Lots of people, Austin, Amber, and Will, Trey, Jared, Portia, Morgan, Larry. People are in the room tonight ready to provide constituent services so that you can make sure that you're getting the work that you need, because I work for you. I had a senior, one of our seniors in the district, who called me the day after the telephone town hall 3 weeks ago. And she said, Congresswoman, I was on the town hall last night. Thank you for hosting, but I have a question. With all of these firms, is Donald Trump trying to fire you too? And I told Ms. Carita, no, ma'am. Donald Trump cannot fire me. Only the people of Georgia's fighting the district can fire me. And Ms. Carita, I don't think you're quite done with me fighting for you yet. So, just know that I'm not going anywhere. I will continue to be your voice in D.C., and we're going to continue to push back together, y'all. So let's open up the floor for questions. And when you stand for your question, you can give me your name, your neighborhood, and then proceed with the question.
Hello, my name is Robert Booth. This is a letter saying that I no longer have Medicaid. Why? Because I have children. Why? Because they say I get too much money, even though I can't even go on my job because I can't work. I'm not working on my job. And then they say I don't have any money or any of that stuff. I don't know. Bottom line is, I'm tired. I'm very, very tired. I supported Kamala Harris. I voted for her. I donated to her. I supported you. I donated. I don't even know. trust the government anymore. In all due respect, Ms. Williams, why should I trust them? Why should I trust any of you? Now, when I sit down, he said he's going to come, he got some forms and stuff like that. That's nice. But if you want to see, you can see it here. Because I need to, yeah. The bottom line is this. I'm tired, man. I do my job, I pay my taxes, I go, wait. My medicine costs $1,000 freaking. It's not like I don't have a job, I have a job. But one medicine costs $1,000. Second medicine costs $300 and something. I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't have it. And it's like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, for all the Trump voters and stuff like that, you have the right to vote for whoever you want to. But is this what you want? Is this what you want? Because he said all this, he said he wasn't going to gut Medicaid. I remember him saying it. He wasn't going to gut Medicaid. He wasn't going to Medicaid. Is it so important that you want to attack people like me? I mean, I want you to think about that. You know, in all due respect, maybe I'm an asshole for this, but I don't have an opinion for you. I don't. And
Thank you for sharing this story. Well, this is an example of what we're hearing. This is an example of what we're hearing over and over, people calling into the office. And while you've already received the determination letter, I saw that it said effective June 2025, we can go ahead and open up a constituent services case and fill out the paperwork, and we can start looking into what that is. But also part of this, I think you said they told you that you made too much money. So in the state of Georgia, we still have this pool of people who make too much money to receive a Medicaid subsidy, but don't make enough money to be on full Medicaid. And that is what we're fighting for with Medicaid expansion in the state of Georgia, that Georgia is one of the 11 states that never expanded Medicaid. So that is a bigger picture that is still something that is happening because we have leaders in this country, leaders in the Republican Party, who refuse to expand Medicaid and now are putting even more people's benefits on the chopping block. We will make sure that we look into this to find out, I think Jared just got the information to find out exactly what the determination was and how we could push back on your behalf, because we could reach people, and Jared has people through our congressional liaisons that he might be able to talk to that you were not able to reach. But we will definitely look into this story for you and stay in touch with you as we see this through. Thank you for sharing your story. And I can't tell you, when you receive a letter like that, that is literally the way that you make sure that you are keeping yourself healthy and stay alive, and it's coming from your government. I know that this is personal for you at this point, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should trust our government with everything that is happening right now. But I do want you to know that you have people in our government fighting for you, because everybody does not feel the way that Elon Musk and Donald Trump feels, and I will never stop fighting on your behalf in the United States Congress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. My name is Michael Beach. I live in the Blue Hills area. I heard you use the word concern earlier, and that concerns me, because I've moved from concern to appalled to pissed about what's going on. A fellow citizen here that just spoke a moment ago
He's the reason we need dedicated, and that's federal employee bias. He's the reason we need to keep dedicated federal employees to deal with these situations and fix these problems. I hear you talk about the courts. We're in trouble. Look at what's happening today. Court of finance, basically. Congress, I'm sorry, but most of the people in your house are neutered right now. What are we as Democrats going to be able to do in Congress itself? And my question is really about the community. I need specifics. Give me some specifics about what I can do in this community, because right now, it's about us that are going to change this, because I don't see it happening right now. We're going to have to get out there and show that we're pissed and that we want our government. I was out demonstrating at CDC right before this. People don't understand what they do, and you're going to get the shock of your life when this is shut down. So, give us specifics. Tell us how we get into the streets and do something that's going to make a difference here. Because I'm fired up, and a lot of my colleagues are as well. We need to do something. We are going to destroy this country, and it's going to take a long time to build this back. Because we've just gutted the most important part, which is the new employees, the new leaders we're tossing in the garbage. And they're not coming back because they don't know if they'll be fired next week. Tell me what to do, please, to make the biggest possible difference in this current climate, because I'm not quite sure what it is. Thanks.
Thank you for that question. So, before I came to Congress, I was an organizer. And so I understand that we have to all play our role in this work. And I know that it's frustrating to hear me say that I am concerned, but I am concerned. I'm concerned on multiple fronts. I was concerned enough that I even got in trouble for walking out of the floor of the joint address. And so there are multiple ways to push back against this administration, and we all have a role to play. Some people are saying, well, we need you. I got a message from someone saying that they wanted me to be dragged off of the House floor. Well, I'm not signing up to be dragged off of the House floor. I'm going to show up and do my job, and if in the process of doing my job, something happens, then it happens. But I don't purposefully show up to be dragged off of the House floor, because it is my job to show up and push back in committee. It is my job to show up and make sure that I'm getting your voice in spaces where you cannot be the voice, because I am a member of Congress. So there are places there are a lot of rallies that are happening that happen when I am in DC or when I have other places to be. I need you to show up there. When we are quiet, when we are not showing up, it makes people think that we are okay with it. That's why I said keep calling my office, but it's not just enough to call my office at this point. So as we saw last week with everything going down with the continuing resolution fight in DC. So there is a little tricky thing that we heard a lot about in the state of Georgia, because we want voting rights, y'all, and it's called the filibuster. So in the Senate, to break the filibuster, it takes 60 votes. Neither party has a 60-vote majority. So that means the Senate needed Democratic votes to even move the continuing resolution alone. And some Democrats gave the Senate those votes. I was very vocal about my opposition. We even organized on the House side calling senators to make sure that we were pushing back. So the number one thing that I need everyone to do is to make sure that in this district we're following all of our official social media channels. And I emphasize official, because we get a lot of people who are saying they want to hear about this, that they're reaching out on the campaign side. And while Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they don't care about what the laws say, I'm a black woman in the South, and I know that I cannot get away with the things that they get away with. And I follow the law, y'all. So when I say that I cannot send you certain things to the campaign site, or I cannot communicate about certain things, it's because I cannot use federal resources. And I will not use federal resources to do political events and have political conversations. So I need you to sign up on all of the official social media sites, right here at the bottom. We have Blue Sky, Nikema, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we give continuous updates. Sometimes those things are calls to action of who you need to target on any specific action that is happening. But I also want you to know that this moment, by design, is meant to cause chaos and confusion and to overcrowd the courts. It is about time, y'all. And we cannot let them overwhelm us and start fighting each other. Because we know that we're fighting for the people of this country, we're fighting for our Constitution, we're fighting for our democracy. And we cannot let them pit us against each other because everybody is not fighting in the same way. So what I need you to do is make sure that you are staying engaged in this process and don't get burned out. People have brought up the civil rights movement, and it is not lost upon me that I hold a seat that was held by the late Congresswoman Lewis. I carry that with me every day, and I fully understand my responsibility. But what I also know is that Congressman Lewis, he didn't lead every march. So we need to make sure that we are tagging people in and out, making sure that the same person does not have to be the person who organizes every single march. Ms. Jenkins, I see you back there. You understood what happened in the civil rights movement. Everybody was not in charge of everything. And in the civil rights movement, they were trying to get their foot in the door. Y'all have me in Congress now. So you have someone on the inside making sure that I can bring those concerns, and they cannot ignore the things that I'm talking about in committee. The ways that we're bringing those conversations, that's why your stories are so important. And we're seeing that happen in real time when other people are showing up at town halls in other districts. That's why the Republican leadership has told their members, don't even have in-person town halls, because they don't want to hear from you, because your voices and your stories and your showing up is powerful. It is powerful, and I need you to keep doing that. So I know that our senators are hosting a rally here in Georgia. It will get a lot of attention because they represent the entire state of Georgia. And Senator Ossoff is up for re-election next year. And so people are going to show up and listen. Our senators need to continue to hear from you so that they know that they have the support of the people as they continue to maneuver in a chamber that is not where we need it to be votes-wise. Saturday at 2 p.m. Saturday at 2 p.m. is the rally hosted by Senator Ossoff, and Senator Warnock is a special guest. Saturday at 2 p.m. So there is an RSVP. I will get that information and do an announcement before the end of the town hall. I don't have it handy. But so continuing to show up, continue to raise your voice. I need to continue to hear from you, and stories are so critically important. I cannot emphasize that enough. So I've heard from so many of my Republican colleagues about why they decided to stop hosting their town halls, and it's because of your voices. It's because of the stories. I'm sure a lot of you saw Richard McCormick when he made national news because he could not be bothered to understand that these are real people showing up, and actually said that people are being paid to show up to his town halls. And I'm sure none of you are paid to be here tonight. You could be anywhere else on this evening, but you care about what's happening in this country, and we cannot let them have us turn on each other. The people who care about what is happening in this country must remain engaged. Follow us. We do a weekly Nikema's Notes about what is happening in D.C. and a monthly newsletter. Our town halls were much more quarterly. We did just yesterday. We're hosting smaller versions. Congress in your community. We just posted one yesterday. For seniors, we're going to be in different communities so that we are showing up where the people are. Everything is not going to look the same in every district, but we need you to continue to show up. And we're going to have a strategy session with just the people here, because there are people who are leading organizations who need us in the fight with them. And so as we're continuing to do these conversations with Congress in your community, please let us know if you have information that needs to be shared in our newsletter, and also make sure that we have constituent groups that are advisory panels for our office. We have the Youth Advisory Council, we have the Seniors Advisory Council, we have Veterans Advisory Council. I see our blue and gold fellow who is a Navy veteran saying yes, he wants veterans to sign up, because you will hear about things before I hear about them, because they impact you. And so we need you to sign up for these advisory councils so that as we're planning what the next steps are, what the next policy is that we need to introduce, what letters we need to write to send to agencies, and where we need to show up, we're hearing it from the people that are directly impacted right here in the district.
Congresswoman. Congresswoman. I'll shout. I can sing it. My name is Marvin Greer from Southwest Atlanta, and I'm going to keep my comments very short. I want to know, considering the unconstitutionality of the things that Donald Trump is doing, can he be impeached?
So the question was, can Donald Trump be impeached because of the things that he's doing that are unconstitutional? Well, Eric, I think the short answer is yes, he can be, but then there's a practical matter of, will he be impeached? So again, it goes back to those numbers, and elections have consequences. So we don't have, there's been articles of impeachment that have already been introduced in the House, but what happens is you introduce the articles of impeachment in the House, and then the president has to be tried in the Senate. So even when Democrats had a majority, articles of impeachment were introduced in the House and they were passed. And then they go over to the Senate where there has to be a trial. And in that, you have to have enough senators that are willing to stand up for the rule of law, that are willing to stand up for this country, and are willing to stand up for the Constitution and say, we're going to vote to actually impeach the president.
I understand all of that. Considering what we're going through in the country, both on the Republican and the Democratic side, I'm sure that there's got to be some Republicans in this country who want to get reelected, and then you start thinking about, do I want to be in power 2 years from now, or 4 years from now, or 6 years from now? So my point is that if we need to start talking about the other side being able to step over the line and say, I'm going to send you back to where you came from.
So in the House, we are 3 votes short of majority. The Republicans have a 3-vote advantage. So there are opportunities for us to influence legislation by getting to those 3 votes, but I have not seen that number of senators who are truly ready to stand up to Donald Trump by standing for our country and our Constitution. And until we have people that are ready to do that, the impeachment articles are not going to go anywhere. We can continue to talk about it. I think they need to continue to hear from the people until they hear from enough people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired and who are willing to push back against them, because elected officials respond to the people, y'all. That's why your voices are so important. So I know that you live here in Southwest Atlanta, but I'm sure you have some family that live in other states that might have a Republican senator. I'm sure you have some family that live in districts that might have a Republican representative. We need to, this is when we have the better system, y'all. This is where organizing comes into play, and you've got to reach out to other people. You've got to reach out to people who are not in this room tonight. You've got to reach out to people who live in other states, whose senators that you can start pushing to make sure that they understand that they don't just represent the people who voted for Donald Trump in this country. There are a lot of districts that are swing districts, and we need you to reach out to those people, some people you went to college with, you used to work with, that is married to the brother of your cousin, everybody. Now is the time to start reaching out to people so that our voices are amplified across the country.
Congressman, we have a question on the card from Ms. Betsy Shawback. Would like her to read it. Betsy Shawback. It says, I'm worried about voting rights.
Is she here?
She's here. She's right. Oh, she's over here.
This is one big family, don't be shy.
Hi, I live in Atlanta. I'm worried about voting rights and the GOP took away election laws. I just want to let us know how you're going to protect our voting rights. I assume you're going to vote no
about voting rights. What am I doing to push back against the way that the Republicans are chipping away at our voting rights, which didn't just start under a Trump presidency, because a lot of these voting rights, with the absence of federal voting protections that are standardized across the country, which I am pushing for, a lot of this is on the state level. And on the state level, we've seen what has happened with precision and looking at what happens when we win elections with Democrats winning at the top of the ballot and across the state, and then how can those things be tweaked to make sure that it takes just enough people off the rolls so that we don't win elections. The SAVE Act was another bill that was brought up, and for those of you who don't know, the SAVE Act was set to be brought up 2 weeks ago on the House floor, and it was held because people started raising their voice and raising concerns about things that are actually in the SAVE Act. How many of you in this room, how many women in this room are married? A lot of you. How many of you changed your name when you got married? A lot of you. Well, I didn't change my name when I got married, but a lot of people do change their names. And what the SAVE Act would force women to do is to have a birth certificate to show when they register that matches their current name. Well, when you were born, you probably had one of your parents' names, not this future mythical husband that you didn't even know existed. So your birth certificate probably does not match the name on your ID or the name that you even go by now. And so that would disenfranchise so many women in this country from showing up just to participate in elections. So in the lead up to the 60th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, which was just last weekend, I am a proud original co-sponsor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. That was reintroduced just last week. We reintroduced this bill because while we know that we don't have the votes in the House right now, it is not okay to just be complacent and silent and not put the markers out there of what we expect to happen in a country where everyone should have free and fair access to the ballot. So we've reintroduced that legislation, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it and lie for you. We don't have the votes to pass it right now. But that does not mean we stop reintroducing legislation as a marker of where we should be and what we should be doing when we have the majority. Because y'all, election cycles, while it feels like an eternity right now, the 2026 cycle is already underway. And we have an opportunity to have a majority in Congress so that we can pass actual voting rights legislation. And with everything that is happening right now in this country, we have to make sure that we're focused on every level of government. Because it is not just in the House and Congress, it's not just in the Senate, but it is also on the local level where a lot of these laws are being implemented. So we've got to show up in all the spaces and every single time that there's an election on the ballot.
Next question is coming from Kay Butler. Kay Butler.
Kay is up here on the front row.
Assuming
I can repeat it if you want to. Go ahead.
no, okay. So assuming that we will get the votes, will there be town halls planned to reach young those in 1830 who have not registered or who do not vote in the last cycle? Town halls can allow them to answer questions and give clarifications sooner because there's so much misinformation that is going on. So public education is so important. So are there ways to have more town halls, not a few months before, but more, you know?
So the question was about getting more people engaged and having more town halls and more ways for people to engage. So we have Congress in your community where we are having conversations in places that are not your traditional spaces. Next week, we're going to do this cigar bar. because we know that we need to show up where people are and have these conversations. Making sure that people understand what is happening in their lives, somebody is deciding that, and how do they get involved. We just launched Generation Good Trouble in our office. Generation Good Trouble is our youth advisory council to get more young people involved so that we can train them on organizing, we can train them on policy, how to write legislation, how to lobby their elected officials, how to show up and make sure that their voices are heard, and starting at a young age so that we can keep them involved. Because I am of the mindset that the more people that are involved in our government, the better we all are. The more people involved, not the more people that agree with me. We didn't have those conversations, but I need engaged people that are paying attention, and so we've launched Generation Good Trouble because we've got to have the next generation of leaders who understand their role in this work. And then that is where the Congress in our community that I mentioned yesterday, we were at a seniors high-rise. Next week, we're at the cigar bar, and we are happy to take our conversation anywhere in the district. Some people have asked me about showing up in Republican districts to host a town hall. Well, I represent y'all. I don't represent a district. I think I got 86% of the vote against a Republican. So I have an obligation to show up here. Our senators will show up all over the state because they represent the entire state, and frankly, they have a bigger office budget than me to go across the whole state. I have enough to make sure that I am reaching y'all and making sure that I am elevating your voices in Washington. And if you have places that you think would benefit from a Congress in your community, please make sure that you see someone on my team before you leave, because I am willing to talk to anyone in this district, whether they agree with me or not, because our country and my constituents are worth it.
District, and I have a comment and a question actively engaged really since Trump was elected in terms of the Tesla takedown and town halls, etc. My comment.
So the question was, there's a concern that she's been involved, she's been engaged, and her concern is, will we even have more elections? And the question is for Eric. What can we do to support the judges that are now being targeted in this moment that we're in this country?
Well, that's a great question, and all those great questions. I've been doing this for 34 years, and I've lived through battles over Bush versus Gore and affirmative action and abortion and civil rights in general. This is the hardest moment by far, and anyone who says they know exactly what to do in this moment doesn't. I would say this. I think, we talked a little bit about going to other districts, and I know different cases, but I do think it's super important that we all talk to our Republican friends to the extent we have Republican friends. Because this is what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to break America because he breaks everything. That's what's going to happen. And it's going to flip. There's going to come a moment when only his real base support him, but the Republican Party won't. But it's going to be a terrifying moment for Republicans, not for us. It's easy for us, we know we want. For them, it's going to be terrifying. So I think on an individual basis, reaching out to moderate Republicans who do want us to have voting rights, who do want America to be a democracy, even if we disagree on the details. That's super important. And the time to begin talking about 2026 is actually yesterday. Because our only hope is a free and fair election in 2026. And I think that
Can y'all really honestly, anybody in here can honestly say
I know. They don't want to talk about it. Exactly.
Do y'all realize that each battleground state, the person who won the $1 million in, those people, congressional districts were linked to those checks? Did y'all even do that research? Me and my sister did. How do you? Yes. All 19 of those people who had one check were in congressional districts, okay? In which the Republicans either flipped or tried to flip from someone like Summer Lee, Black progressive, excuse me. That's a fact. Y'all gonna look it up. I'm really mad right now because y'all acting like this election was fair. It was not, okay? But I can assure you, and you have to believe it. But in my core, but not just my core, the research that me and my sister did after that election tell me that this election was stolen. And I'm gonna say it out loud. Because I can prove it. And I'm going to try to get in touch with y'all, and we've been calling all kinds of people, and then they say, oh, you know, I'm in our district. But we have evidence, and along with New Mexico, with the Nathan Taylor said, for voter power every day during, during early voting, each time the Democrats had this amount of votes, the Republicans matched. Like it was not a bell curve. You guys know how bell curves go, right? It just went to the right. Okay, now let me just say this. When you guys decided with the abortion question, I'm giving you for instance, y'all. The abortion question this time around, it was the first time that abortion question was severed from the candidate. In other words, you could vote for Kamala Harris, and then you could still vote for Trump. You know what I'm saying? Okay, like this. All these elections we have been winning up until now, right? 2018, 2022, midterm 2000, right? What happened was this was the first time, the first election when the Republicans went across those battleground states, there was 22 other states, and they changed how the abortion question was written. Yes. So in this election, if you go back and look, you will see there was a split, and that's how they could tell and determine who actually voted for Trump and who actually voted also for the abortion question. Like you guys know, the day after the election, NP had reported when everybody left, everybody had left out of the voting booth. The first thing they said was, we came out here and we voted for democracy. Y'all know that Donald Trump is the antithesis of democracy. So therefore, people in that vote booth, they voted for Kamala Harris. Okay? Now, I'm going back to the abortion question. Everywhere, y'all, from the last election, we have been winning all that long. Okay? Now that's fine, but here's the thing. This, like I said, is the first election when they decided to say, okay, we want to still support women's rights to choose. And that candidate, the Republicans made sure that candidate was scattered from the vote. So they can still vote for Trump, and then they can still vote for abortion.
So y'all, I think what she's referring to is in some states they have referendums on the ballot. Georgia is not one of those states where we have like citizen-led referendums and we didn't have a constitutional question on abortion on our ballot this election cycle, but in some states they did. And she was saying how it was changed this past election cycle so that you could vote for the issue or the question on the ballot and the candidate, and they weren't tied together. But that is why I said it is important to not just pay attention on the federal level, because while it might not be fair, it was legal.
If you look at the fact that what I read, why I brought the abortion question
sit down and talk with you, to hear you out. I just want to make sure that we can get to as many questions as we can tonight. I understand the frustration. I totally get it. And I understand that there are a lot of laws in place that allow people to do things. I understand that no one should be able to buy our elections. And I see that you're frustrated with me right now, and that's okay too.
It's just that y'all Democrats don't understand what y'all dealing with. These people, even though you're trying to say how diabolical they are. They are so far ahead, y'all. Y'all worried about midterm. We can't even get out of this one. But it's not. Because when they end up winning young voters, y'all.
So, if I may, I think all of us feel the frustration you feel, and I think all of us feel that there are a lot of things about that election that don't feel right. But here's the bottom line, and it's a hard one. There's nothing we can do about it. And to get from here to success, we have to use your energy, your anger, and your emotion to convince people that all we want is a free, fair election. And we should be able to get Republicans to agree, not in Congress, but in and it's that anger, though, that we need to use looking forward. We can't do anything about the past.
Thank you. One second, we have someone else with the mic right now.
Hey everyone, I'm John Morris, live in Midtown. I do have a confession to make. I did not vote for you in the last election, but that's because I was in California at the time. I'm very excited to be back in the 5th and have the opportunity to vote in the next election. Really appreciate
I would have wanted to hear from you regardless.
So I appreciate that. I just want to say really quick, I love the passion. I think we all do need to accept that the MAGA movement is real in terms of Republicans have great control of non-traditional media channels. There were a lot of non-traditional voters. This wasn't my intended comment, but I do think one big takeaway is that obviously I think people on the left need to get better at activating those non-traditional media channels because yes, there were a lot of low information, low engagement voters who went and voted for Trump. I have one really quick comment and then a question, and I'll try to be brief with the comment. And I want to, before I make the comment, you mentioned stories. I'm going to share my story. I used to be a managing director at a large consultancy until about a month ago. And I quit my job because of what I saw was going on in our country. And I really loved your comment about it's not normal times, right? And we should be acting like it is not normal times. And so my comment, and before I made the comment, I really, really appreciate you doing this town hall. I know that you are doing more than most of our Congress people to fight this moment in history, and so I do want to give my thanks. I do want to say I was very disappointed to see the resolution that you submitted. I know it's ceremonial, I know it's not a lot of time investment, but I'm disappointed that you, along with a MAGA loyalist Republican, did the resolution asking Congress to recognize Delta. I don't feel like that was the right thing for this moment in history as our republic was crumbling around us, right? Small comment, not my main question. My main question, and also somewhat directed to the law professor over here, thank you very much for attending. I realize the importance of everything that you have on here around Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid cuts, and Social Security cuts, and all of those sorts of things. What specific things? Because right now we have an executive branch that is recklessly and lawlessly impounding funds. What specific things are you, in partnership with your Democratic colleagues, doing as part of the upcoming reconciliation, given that we just threw away all of our leverage? I know it wasn't your fault, I know it wasn't the House's fault, threw away all of our leverage with the continuing resolution, cloture vote. What specific things are you and the Democratic Party going to do as part of the reconciliation dialogue? We already know Republicans are going to fall over themselves trying to do that, to end the impoundment, using Congress's power of the purse, the most important power of Congress.
So I will respond to the Delta resolution. Delta is the largest private employer in the state, and so Delta Airlines wanted to make sure, and they are on the chopping block because they have pushed back against this administration on their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies at Delta Airlines. So it was important to them to make sure that they had other people other than they knew that they had me supporting them, but having a broader support base because they are pushing back against this administration. Exactly. So there is a Delta Airlines just celebrated 100 years as an airline. Delta was founded in Macon, Georgia. Delta is the first global airline to meet this milestone, and they're headquartered right here in the 5th Congressional District. And I live by the adage, when Delta flies, Atlantic's work, because we need to make sure that we're continuing to support those companies that keep our people employed. I push back against Delta when they are not giving people the access to form unions within their company. I make sure that I support them when they are doing things to keep our people employed. The resolution did not mention the DEI. The resolution was strictly around them being 100 years as an airline. I gave you the backstory on why it was important for Delta to have more than just me reading this resolution. And then the next piece was what specific things, and we talked about the Empowerment Act, and we talked about the CR that just passed, and how we had some senators in the Senate who allowed the filibuster vote to go through, and then voted against the actual legislation. And so what is happening now is we will continue to go back, and now it's time for each appropriator, and that, I don't even know what's going to happen with that, and I won't pretend that I do. Congressman Sanford Bishop has been in Congress since 1992. He is one of the appropriators in Congress, and I asked him if he had ever seen anything like this, because right now, the continuing resolution that was just passed on Friday is through September. And a new budget year starts October 1st. We have not even passed the appropriation bill for this cycle that started October 1st, 2024. So we've not been in Congress in session since that vote happened on Friday. This is a district work period. I'm in the district this week, and our leadership, we will be working within our Democratic caucus, because right now the leader in the House and the leader in the Senate, they both represent New York. And it is important that they are working together, because it is clear to the entire country that we were not on the same page when it came to the CR vote. And so now we have to make sure that we are working in tandem with both chambers, because we are equal in our governments. And no matter what the White House will tell you, the legislative branch is an equal branch of government. And my husband reminds me all the time that the Congress is Article 1, Section 1, and we have to control that power of the purse, like you mentioned, and that is what a lot of my Republican colleagues are getting upset about. Because I have a chart up here with all of the community project grants that we were able to secure just for this district. Each member of Congress had the opportunity to get community project grants to fund things in our district. Not Democratic members, not independent members, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, every member of Congress. And these things were passed by Congress. And now in this new CR, all of that can be zeroed out. And those funds can be used for something else. And it is not just Democrats that are upset about this, because I'm hearing from our Republican colleagues that they are tired of Elon Musk as well. Because right now, he has more power than even them in the majority. And that is where this pushback is going to come from, where our members who thought that they were now moving up and having power to decide what happens, they're taking their marching orders from someone who's not even elected. And that is why it's important for you to continue to call your friends, your colleagues, people that you know who live in other districts, because they can reach out to their members as well, because this is not just impacting Democrats, it is impacting everyone in this country. And these next few months around the budget, the appropriations bills that are going to go through, they're going to be brutal. But now people will be paying attention, because of what they just saw in CR. People are more activated than they were last year when this conversation was happening, and people will continue to make their voices heard because of the impact that they're already feeling from these budget cuts.
One housekeeping note, we have to depart through the entire building at 8. However, I'll point out, if the Congresswoman staff could come up to my left, we will give you business cards. We will answer every single question that you have. And if you need any assistance with any other federal issue, we will help in that regard.
So as soon as the Congresswoman, we can take one more.
We'll do 3 more, but make
Yes,
sure
ma'am.
that it is a question, and let's get to the question so that we can we'll do 4 more. So this will be our last question. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, I'm going to make it real short. My name is Monica Gibson. I live in Colonial Hills. I had 2 children that graduated from the HBCU. And my daughter who graduated from Spelman, I just saw Spelman College up there. There's programs that are being cut dramatically from the AU Center. She graduated from Spelman, and I'm very proud of her, as a mathematics major in a dual degree program for engineering. That every day she goes to work, and she's concerned that these programs are being cut. Not only are they being cut, like the 1890 land project was cut and then brought back, these kids are graduating not knowing if their programs that they're in are going to be cut, but the people who work there, who work effortlessly, who work hard, they're worried that they're going to have a job the next day. I look right there, she's at home right now working with a program, and they're working with the Atlanta public school system to educate the kids in the urban area along with Google so that they can have exposure. That program is up to be cut because the DEI has affected it in such a way.
We gotta get to the
Everything
question. Last 3.
The only thing I want to say is, it's not a question. Pay attention, support your HBCUs, go to the AUC, wherever you go, support them. These kids are working hard, these people are working hard, and the programs are being cut. People are losing their jobs.
So I'm a proud graduate of an HBCU, Talladega College in Alabama, and I represent the largest consortium of HBCUs of any other member of Congress in the country. I'm a member of the Congressional HBCU Caucus. I just spoke at the UNCF President's Dinner last week in Washington, D.C., where we are going through exactly what the federal impacts are on all of our nation's HBCUs, where that leads us, and where do we go from here. So it is absolutely on our radar. It is so critically important, and I will always champion our HBCUs because oftentimes that is the only place where some of our scholars can go. And I think that is also tied to the Department of Education cuts and the dismantling of the Department of Education that we didn't even get to tonight. But when it comes to the Department of Education, the Department of Education administers all of our Pell Grants, student loan programs. When you look at our Title I schools, children who live in districts that need extra money because there's not enough funds coming in just from property taxes, and students with disabilities. And that's not just, that runs the full spectrum, from talented and gifted students to students who have ADHD to students who have any disability or an IEP, because that is a legally binding document. So when we talk about destroying the Department of Education, where does that leave all of those students who deserve access? I'm a former public school teacher, so I firmly agree that every child can learn, but not necessarily on the same day in the same way. And that is where the Department of Education comes in, to make sure that every student has a chance. So I will continue to be that champion.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I am a current federal employee, so I prefer not to give my name. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support. I do have to say that it doesn't feel like the Democrats have a coordinated approach. I understand the approval ratings are down for Democrats as a whole, and I know that there are a lot of issues that Democrats of different persuasions agree on, kitchen table issues like the economy and like abortion rights and those kind of Social Security. And just because we're at this point that the gentleman from Midtown brought up, we're really in a crisis situation. It's not that these other issues aren't important, but I guess I would urge you, if you could work together with the other Democrats, even those that may not have the same opinions as you, in order to retain and build power so we can deal with some of these other issues. What are you doing to do that? I mean, can you prioritize that, I guess is my question, because I think right now in this moment, that is the most important thing.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest things in this moment that I've heard about through all of the things around what happened in this last election, where do we go from here, working with Democrats across the Democratic ecosystem and spectrum, I just introduced legislation around getting big money out of our elections. This is something that I'm working on with Congressman Jason Crow from Colorado. Jason and I are not, you wouldn't see us as bosom buddies, but this is something that we're working on together because it is important so that we can make sure that when we're looking at what our elections look like, we don't have more people who are able to legally buy off elections because they're a billionaire. If I had $1 billion, I'd give it to everybody to make sure that we have more people engaged, informed, pushing back on the misinformation, the disinformation, and doing all the things, but I don't. And so we have to make sure that we have a level playing field, and that is the legislation that Congressman Crow and I are working on that we just introduced. And that is beyond all of the other things, but that is the big picture thing because that will impact everybody across the board. No, this was number 3. You're number 4. Remember, you're last.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kamala Jones. I live in the George Hills neighborhood. Very quickly, my work, I'm a family physician, epidemiologist, past president of the American Public Health Association. My work is on naming, measuring, and addressing the impacts of racism on the health and well-being of our nation and world. I think that this theory of chaos stuff that's going on right now in the federal government with Musk and Trump is affecting all of us now. You know, the terror stuff in the government, gutting and all that, but I think that underneath that is masking what he really is about and has been about since 2016, which is to make America white again. And I think that so we have to really fear when we see what happened with the deportations and all of that, and it makes me fear what else is going on. It makes me fear when he, on day one, pardoned the January 6th insurrectionists, which now gives them some kind of outside of government militia, which might be why some of the Republicans are afraid. So I suppose my question, you were listing 5 in your office, 5 advisory councils, and I only got to write down 3, so youth, senior veterans, I don't know what the other 2 are, but I would like to volunteer myself to be part of an anti-racism advisory council to your office.
I like
and see for us to understand what is going on right now, which is in its core make America white again.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Jones, I want to make sure, I was just about to say, I want to make sure you meet Trey Riddle. Trey is my district chief of staff, and Trey is going to make sure, you need to make sure you get her information as well, because we definitely need you around the table. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Pinker. I live in Oakland City. I'm actually really glad that this is going to be perfect call to action, PSA, kind of following both your comments. I'm a proud West Point grad. I'm a combat infantryman, Ranger School.
Thank you for your service.
My sister is a public school teacher in Minneapolis. And right now, I see at least, what do we think, 100 people in this room? And I know what it's like when you're getting steamrolled by the opposition. And I know what you have to do, and you have to react, and you have to shoot back. So right now, I see everyone with cell phones, yes? There's an app called 5 Calls. Download 5 Calls app tonight before you leave, especially if you didn't get to ask your question. It's free, it works. I've called John Ossoff, Raphael Warnock. I know I've been to your office, man, at least 4 times in the last week alone. They'll give you a little script. They will count how many tallies for the issue have been reported by your office, and it will show up on your dockets. Download it tonight before you go home and leave this building. It's called 5 Calls. It's a blue circle with 5 stars on it.
So I know that our Teamsters, our good brothers and sisters with the Teamsters Union want their union hall back so that we can get it back in order and they can go home. We have one last question right here in the front row, the real last question.
If you're not a card-carrying Democrat, you are focused wrong. If you want to ask that question, have some credentials, but you are deserving of an answer. Every last one of us in here is a voter, or should be. We are the ones who send people to Congress. They sit in those seats because we, the people, sent them there, or failed to send them there from lack of work. I've heard a lot of talking here about what's wrong and what's good. Rural Georgia increased their voter rolls by 864,000 last year. We did not have that many folks to add to the roll in the 6 counties, in 6 cities in South Fulton County. You want to know what it's going to do to get us out of the check bill in? We got us here. We the people. Put your boots on the ground and your feet to the streets. Let them see who you are. The first week we had to protest 6 cities in South Fulton County. Not a single one, except for East Point, me and my 10 friends from talking outside East Point, never come to sit down. I will be having another protest meeting this coming Saturday from 11 to 12. Grassroots. Grassroots. She can't come and go to every house in my city, or your city, or on your street. Who know the people best friend with you? You ought to. You need to start talking at home. And then that home brings out further down the street and further down that street. Elon Musk can spend $3 trillion in Georgia. But if we are talking to our neighbors, our family, our friends, and telling them about what is up here, letting them know what is going on, that takes some personal time. We all want a quick fix. Somebody, where you somebody? Where somebody? Every somebody has a name, and it's your name. Information. Go to the Bible. They perish from lack of knowledge. We need knowledge. We need information. I'm going to ask one thing from the people in the Democratic Party on the congressional level. Get me information. I don't have a budget. They didn't send me a budget. I'm not on one of those committees. Get me information. Then I will work to get it out. If you're not willing to do that, you don't even have to ask all these questions. I didn't say about that come here to be your personal secretary. You need to put your boots on the ground and your feet on the street. Organize. Now you don't know who you took the way I was saying the most decorated elected official ever elected in the city of East Point combined. I have more citations for protesting, passing my bill, than any of them combined. Does it bother me? Absolutely not. Why? I know my rights. And you need to learn yours. And if you don't know, let's go workshop and seminar. I'm calling these like these are great okay, let folks know we are live and very high. Seminars, go to church, get in the bars club, girls club, have them over to your house when they're praying. That is what we need to be doing. Organizing. Who knows what the people you get in your community? The folks live this way. And that's what you need to be doing. Now, that's our protest in front of City Hall, from the other place.
Someone go get Sheila Jones. Representative Sheila Jones. Do you know where Sheila
Thank you so much. I think what I heard was, we the people must include all the people. And that is what I aim to do as your member of Congress, is to bring all the people together, regardless of where you stand on the issue, bringing you together to get the information so that you can go back into your communities, amplify, and share. Quickly, before we leave for tonight, I noticed that we had some other elected officials that joined us who've been doing he's trying to tell me how to do my job, but I know. But we have State Representative Sheila Jones, who is with us, who is doing the work under the gold dome. I know that y'all are approaching time down, so thank you for everything that you continue to do on the state level. And then we have another State Representative Eric Bell, who is also playing down at the Capitol under the gold dome. So thank you for being here with us tonight. And then I saw East Point City Councilman Joshua Butler, who is here with us this evening, who fights for all of the people down in the city of East Point. But y'all, it takes us on every level of government, showing up, staying engaged, staying involved, and working in community. So I'm very grateful to our brothers and sisters in organized labor, especially the Teamsters Union, for allowing us to use this space tonight for our community conversation. Thank you so much, and have a good night.